It's official, summer is here. Outside, the trees are lush, the fruit and veg are ripening, and flowers are blooming. But that doesn't mean that your indoor plants aren't feeling the seasonal shift too. So today, I'm going to take you through lots of tips and tricks to keep your houseplants thriving this summer. Even if you found positions in your home that are keeping your plants really, really happy for the majority of the year, be aware that you might need to move them to new positions as summer comes. I've got a plant here that was living a perfectly happy life on the windowsill up until a couple of weeks ago. And I suddenly checked the plants on the windowsill and saw that quite a few of them had scorched and actually burned. So I've now moved those plants about a metre back from that window and replaced the plants in that area with cacti and succulents. And that is suiting those plants much better. Even this one here, this is an alocasia, and this is actually quite a highlight plant. This one, as you can see, has got lots of damage. It's kind of yellowing and browning, and again, it was just too bright for that plant. So at this time of year, just make sure you're really, really keeping an eye on the foliage. Any signs of distress or anything new that you're not quite sure about, just keep an eye on it and be aware that you might need to move your plants to new positions. But another point that I wanted to make, and in fact, this plant here is a really good example of this, is keeping the humidity levels up. Because typically, as the light increases, as the light intensity increases, and it gets warmer, the humidity naturally drops. And one of the most common signs of low humidity is browning and yellowing tips. And again, you can see that's starting to happen on this plant just here. So again, you can just to kind of make the plant look a bit better, you can follow the natural leaf shape of the plant and give that a chop back. But I just try, if I possibly can, to keep the humidity at around about 50% or more. I run a humidifier. You can also mist your plants, but this is only a temporary fix. So in order to actually kind of permanently raise the humidity, a humidifier is the best way to go. Something I've already touched on in this series so far is that sticking to any kind of schedule with your watering is, in my opinion, not a good idea, because the watering needs of your plants are going to massively change as the seasons change. And this very much applies in summertime because your plants are obviously getting more light, more heat, and they're therefore likely to dry out at a much faster rate. This means that often, if you were very used to watering your plants about once a week before, this might even increase to twice or 3 times a week. So what I will always do is I will stick my finger down into the soil and just kind of feel to see how much moisture's in there, and I'll use that as a guide and go off that. Here you can see that there's lots of soil still kind of clinging to my finger, indicating that there is quite a lot of moisture still in the soil. And this is a begonia, and this one does like to be fairly moist, so I will usually let this one dry out a little bit on the top layer, stick my finger in, and then when I feel that it is starting to get dry on the top, then I will water it through again. Something you can also do at this time of year is transition some of your houseplants outside. And I like to do this to really, really get the best out of my plants at this time of year. The important thing to remember is that when you're transitioning plants to the outdoors, the light is going to be much more intense. So I will always start my plants in a shady spot and then gradually kind of adjust them or acclimate them to a sunnier spot over time, depending on how they respond. The important thing to take into account as well is that as you move plants outside, you are likely going to encounter all sorts of pests that you've never encountered before, things like aphids and black fly. So before bringing them back inside, it's really important to give them a full spritz down. I personally use horticultural soap and give them a really good wipe over. Also, another thing to take into account is that before you move your plants outside, just check how low the temperature drops overnight, because personally, if it's going to be any less than 10 degrees Celsius, I would hold off for a couple of weeks. Don't rush it, because you want to ease your plants into it gradually. Getting your houseplants ready for summer is all about understanding their ever-changing needs and just tweaking a few things here or there in order to keep them happy. And while I still love my indoor jungle, I have recently moved to my own house and finally have a garden to play with. I've never done this before. I'm a complete beginner, but I'm very excited to see where it takes me. Whether indoors or outdoors, it's so exciting to keep the journey going.